question about rising from death from Luke chapter 20, verses 27 to 38, dying and rising with Christ. Then some Sadducees, who said that people would not rise from death, came to Jesus and said, quoting Deuteronomy 25, verses 5 to 10, "Teacher, Moses wrote this law for us. If a man dies and leaves a wife but no children, the man's brother must marry the widow so that they can have children who will be considered the dead man's children." Once there were 7 brothers. The oldest got married and died without having children. Then the second one married the woman. And then the third, the same thing happened to all 7. They died without having children. Last of all, the woman died. Now, on the day when the dead rise to life, whose wife will she be? All 7 of them had married her. Jesus answered them, "The men and women of this age marry, but the men and women who are worthy to rise from death and live in the age to come will not then marry. They will be like angels and cannot die. They are the children of God because they have risen from death." And Moses clearly proves that the dead are raised to life. In the passage about the burning bush, he speaks of the Lord as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. From Exodus 3, verse 6, "He is the God of the living, not of the dead, for to him all are alive." The gospel today is about the only time that Jesus interacted with a group of Sadducees. But who were they? Who were the Sadducees? The first thing that we notice in this gospel is the mention of the Sadducees. They did not believe in the rising from death. In the time of Jesus, the Jews didn't have a rock-solid, uniform, monolithic religion. They were divided into rival factions. The main factions were the Pharisees, the Sadducees, and the Essenes. The Sadducees were following the letter of the law of Moses, not the interpretation of the Pharisees. The Sadducees didn't like the Pharisees that the Pharisees enforce all kind of rules and laws to be obeyed by the people according to their interpretation of the law, their interpretation. First of all, we need to understand that this was a trap by the Sadducees. These guys, as a man, made up an absurd situation with zero possibility to happen in real life. It was a trap. I can't believe that they were so dumb. The Sadducees were friendly to the high priest, but not so much with the Pharisees. In Acts 4, verses 1 and 2, we find that the priest conducted the process against Jesus was somehow associated with the Sadducees. And in Acts 4, verses 1 to 2, we learn that Peter and John were still speaking to the people when some priests, the officers in charge of the temple guards, and some Sadducees arrived. They were annoyed because the 2 apostles were teaching that the people that Jesus had risen from death, which proved that the dead will rise to life. That's something that they didn't believe. So they constructed the gospel to find everything about the people, facts and items in this gospel. Some Sadducees, one of the main religious factions who maintained that people will not rise from death, came to Jesus with intention to trap him. And they referred to Deuteronomy chapter 25, verses 5 to 10, where the law stated that stated the duty to a brother who died without children. The case mentioned 7 brothers who died childless, and one after the other got married to the same woman according to the law. So the question to Jesus was, now, on the day when the dead rise to life, whose wife will she be? All 7 of them had married her. But the Lord said, the men and women who are worthy to rise from dead and live in the age to come will not then marry. They will be like angels that cannot die. They are the children of God because they have risen from death. And then Jesus quoted Exodus 3, verse 6. He is the God of the living, not of the dead. For him, all are alive. So, what is this gospel all about? What does the Magisterium of the Church tell us about the rising from death? Catechism, paragraph 992, God revealed the resurrection of the dead to his people progressively. Hope in the bodily resurrection of the dead established itself as a consequence intrinsic to faith in God as creator of the whole man, soul, and body. The creator of heaven and earth is also the one who faithfully maintains the covenant with Abraham and his posterity. It was in this double perspective that faith in the resurrection came to be expressed. In their trials, the Maccabean martyrs confess maintains his covenant with Abraham and his posterity. It was in this double perspective that faith in the resurrection came to be expressed. In their trials, the Maccabean martyrs confess the King of the universe will rise us up to an everlasting renewal of life because we have died for his laws. One cannot be but choose to die at the hands of men and to cherish the hope that God gives of being raised again by him. Catechism, paragraph 993, the Pharisees and many of the Lord's contemporaries hoped for the resurrection. Jesus teaches it firmly. To the Sadducees who deny this, he answers, is not this why you are wrong, that you know neither the scriptures nor the power of God? Faith in the resurrection rests on faith in God, who is not God of the dead, but of the living. And paragraph 994, the Catechism. But there is even more. Jesus links faith in the resurrection to his own person. I am the resurrection and the life. It is Jesus himself who on the last day will raise up those who have believed in him, who have eaten his body and drunk his blood already. Now, in this present life, he gives a sign and pledge of this by restoring some of the dead to life, announcing thereby his own resurrection, though it was to be of another order. He speaks of this unique event as the sign of Jonah, the sign of the temple. He announces that he will be put to death, but rise thereafter on the third day. In this gospel, the Lord is teaching us, at least we should be able to identify 3 important teachings. Teaching number 1, the Sadducees did not believe in the rising from dead. They were following the letter of the law of Moses, not the interpretation of it by the Pharisees. The Sadducees differ with the Pharisees, who enforce all kind of laws and rules. There were 613 commandments. to be obeyed by the people according with their interpretation of the law. Teaching number 2, Jesus quoted Exodus 3, verse 6, when he said, Moses clearly proves that the dead are raised to life, and added that God is the God of the living, not the God of the dead. For him, all are alive. It's not only in Exodus, but also in Catechism, paragraph 993. Teaching number 3, Jesus links faith in the resurrection to him, to himself, when he said, I am the resurrection and the life. From John chapter 11, verse 25. And also Catechism, paragraph 994. John 11, 25. I am the resurrection and the life. If you believe in me, you will live. Even though you die, you will live. John Higo said that you may find useful to remember. This is the only time that Jesus interacted with a group of Sadducees who didn't believe that people will rise from death, which is a fundamental belief of a Christian. It's in our creed. Jesus made it clear that God is the God of the living, not of the dead. For to him, all are alive. Jesus links faith in the resurrection to him when he revealed that I am the resurrection and the life. Very important concepts to remember. So let me ask you some basic review questions. Why it's so important for a Christian to remember this gospel? What did Jesus say about Moses here? What did Jesus say about God in relation to the resurrection? And who will rise from death and live in the age to come? Lessons were taken from the Good News Translation and from the Catechism of the Catholic Church. All documents are copyrighted and all rights reserved by their owners. This is Alejandro Burgos from El Paso, Texas. And I see you next Sunday.